Hello, my nasties. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I am going to be working on some paintings. We're going to be varnishing. We're going to be doing all of the things. And I'm going to be having a little chitty chat with you all about motivation. My motivation specifically, how the hell it is I could be this motivated every single day, how I'm such a workaholic, why it is I don't experience burnout, etc., etc., etc. What prompted this video? Well, the common question, or I suppose it's a statement, although it has been posed to me both as a question and as a statement. Karla, I wish I could be as motivated as you. I'm just not. Or Karla, I'm incredibly creative, but I can't seem to stay motivated and focused. How do you do it? How do you do it? So I cannot, of course, give you advice on your life because I do not know your situation. I do not know your skills. I do not know your mental state. But in general, I can give you hopefully a few pointers by kind of explaining the best I can articulate it, how the hell it is that I motivate myself. So let's get on with the topic. So I suppose, generally speaking, I'm going to be discussing two different things. Number one, where does my motivation come from? And number two is going to be, what do I do if and when I do feel unmotivated? Because I'm not a machine. I have my off days as well. I'm not out here pretending that I'm perfect. Of course not. If you've been here for any stretch, that's not my gig, okay? I am just as imperfect as any other monster on this planet, so let's just nix that idea. But let's begin with number one. So where does my motivation stem from? Some of you are going to hate this answer because motivation to me is simply innate. It is who I am. I've never been one to sit idly. I've never been one to just sit on my hands, twiddle my fingers, would just choose whatever idle activity exists. I've never been one to sit in front of the TV for hours. It's never been me. When I was a child, even when I was in school, I was imagining little secret private worlds to run away from because I never enjoyed school. This is what's crazy. I suppose it's not crazy if you know me at all, but I enjoyed reading because it was escapism, and I enjoyed learning history. I was never a numbers kid. I'm still not a numbers kid. Like 1 + 1 isn't 6. Are you serious? So that's me. I enjoyed the escapism of reading. I was a huge bookworm, surprise, surprise, and history. I loved history. So, and this goes back to kindergarten, right? I've always been a nerdy, creative child, but I hated the process of going to school. I hated the process of being around other people who were noisy and distracting me from doing the nerdy things that I wanted to do. I was definitely a teacher's pet because even as a child, I was drawn to the adults because the adults were the ones with all of the knowledge. The adults were the ones who could read me the books. The adults were the ones who could teach me about ancient Egypt and Rome and all of that cool shit that my peers had no interest in whatsoever, right? So I have just always been innately motivated to learn, to do. It is in my nature. Now, that's not to say that if you are not naturally a motivated person, that it's something that cannot be taught. You are a hopeless case. I don't believe that. Because as with any issue that we may have, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, whatever it is. Well, no, not spiritually, because that's a different level of esoterics that we won't get into, but emotional issues, mental issues, physical issues to an extent, all of that, those are things that I believe if you truly, truly want to shift your perspective, change your life, shake things up, become better, those are things you can work on. Now, is it easier for some people than others? Yeah, of course. Hello. Absolutely. But you can change those things. So, me personally, I have not had a rough life. I will readily admit that. It was a relatively normal childhood, just me going to school, me coming home and playing, me doing all of the things, right? Was it a magical childhood? No, but it was normal. It was normal and uneventful, which I'm not complaining about whatsoever. But nothing has ever been handed to me. I did not grow up in an affluent family. I kind of had to make my way in the world. I mean, yes, I was provided for and all of that sort of thing, but there was always that artistic black sheep of the family in me, in which I always felt a disconnect between relatives. It's just always been there. Don't cry for me, put away the tiny violins. It's just some of us were set upon this earth and put into familial situations that simply are not necessarily copacetic with our spiritual and creative natures. And that's okay. I'm not complaining. I'm not poo-pooing my situation. Again, it's just I'm giving you context that I've always been an escapist child, and I've never had anything handed to me. Anything that I've wanted, I've had to work for. And that quite literally, I've had to, if I wanted clothing, fashion, I had to go work for it. If I wanted to go, I don't know, on a fun road trip, I had to pay for that. Because circling back to not having an affluent family and also essentially existing on a separate planet from these people, my family never was on board with my creative pursuits. They couldn't stand my fashion, my artwork, and it all stemmed from worry and their conservatism. It had nothing to do with anything else. It was just, again, we exist on different planets. That's just how it is. And so my lifestyle has never aligned with their values and their morals to an extent. And so if I wanted to buy the platform boots, I had to purchase those myself. Now, if I would have asked for some frilly pink heels, I would have got them, right? But the platform Frankenstein stompy boots, no girl, you had to pay for those yourself. So again, I've always worked for what I wanted, but I always had that ability to say, you know what? I want those shoes. I want that expensive corset. I want to travel to this city to see this tombstone, and I'm going to do it. And I don't care how many hours I have to work at my shitty part-time job to raise the money, I'm going to do it. So I've always been a self-starter, a self-motivator. I've always had a fire under my ass. Always. Could I work harder? Smarter even? Yes, absolutely. I could always work harder, and I could certainly always work smarter. I know that. To my detriment, I can have a little bit of tunnel vision, and my mind can be a bit discombobulated, and I have difficulty truly being efficient. I can be productive all damn day, all day long, from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep. But there's a difference between productivity and actual efficiency. I'm working on it. It's a long process. But anyway, the fact remains, I work. Whether it is art, illustration, or my vintage shop, which Coco Naughty, if you are unaware, I opened a art and vintage clothing boutique last year. We are slowly expanding into other things, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. Well, actually, no, we'll touch on it now. I am expanding Coco Naughty to be the dream for Coco Naughty would be to have my own Karla flavored lifestyle boutique. And I'm not saying, I want to sell everything under the sun, but things that are of deep interest to me, my passions, of course, being fashion, art, and no surprise to you all, you know that I also enjoy the olfactory experience, right? I am a perfume maniac, home fragrance, candles, wax melts, incense, I give it all to me. All of it, I love it all because I exist in my own bubble. And I can dress up all I want. I can decorate my space all I want. I can draw all of the paintings that I want, or rather the illustrations, and paint the paintings that I would like to paint. The one thing that was missing was the olfactory experience, because I can, go out and source a vintage outfit, just a killer outfit. Then I can sit down and draw. I can light an incense stick, which is great. And then I could light a candle, but it didn't feel right to me. I mean, I still enjoy it, don't get me wrong. I'm still buying my candles, I'm still buying my incense. But I was creating worlds in my head and ideas for scents that I would like to create myself. And of course, as a graphic designer, well, I have the skills to be an illustrator, graphic designer. Well, duh, Karla, start a brand, a little mini side hustle brand, right? I created a home fragrance line. We're starting with wax melts. We will get into candles eventually, but the Coco Naughty experience is starting to become a little bit more substantial, and I'm working very hard on expanding that boutique, that brand, that whole thing, that whole Coco Naughty universe. And the name Coco Naughty, of course, stems from my love for tropical fruit, for tiki bars, coconuts in particular. My name, of course, starts with a K. Coco, you get it? Coco Naughty, bratty coconut. Okay, we get it. But anyway, I started that white bat wax. I always leave the T. I don't enunciate the T's, and I need to stop that. Well, my pet project, white bat wax, is the new thing, yeah? My interests are, in every sense of the word, passions. Without art, fashion, and just overall aesthetics, I would not at all exist in the form that I do today. And it is these passions, it is having these intense purposes to live for, essentially. That is how I remain motivated every day, because I can wake up one day and not necessarily feel like working on artwork at that very moment, but I can pick up something else. I can say, you know what, today I don't feel like steaming clothing either, but you know what sounds good today? I'm just going to sit my butt over here, pull my beakers out, my fragrance oils, and start mixing things. And then as the day progresses, maybe I'm done mixing fragrance oils, and then I want to jump back into artwork. I say, you know what, now I'm in the mood for it. I was sitting at the table and I created a new scent, and it inspired me. It started making me think about a particular type of scene, and now I want to draw that outfit. If I was in that scene, what would I be wearing? And then I can jump into my sketchbook and illustrate something. So everything is interconnected. And all of my creations inspire each other. So there's never a dull moment in my brain. Hi, try living in it, right? I mean, I'm used to it, but I don't know how anybody else could handle something like this. And if you are a similar monster, you know how it is. We just never turn off. We never turn off. All of that to say, the takeaway for this portion of the video is that the key to being and remaining motivated is to hone in on your particular passions and explore yourself within those passions. What is it about your interests that make you tick? And when you figure that out, again, this may be easier for some to do than for others, but you know yourself better than anyone else. Yes? So even if you have interests that you have been suppressing for a long time, you know they're in there. They never go away. It's similar to that inner child that we all have inside of us where, I can't stand this bullshit. I mean, I understand where the bullshit comes from, but hearing an adult say to me, oh my God, I've never been creative. I wish I was as creative as you. Like, blah, 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 blah. And I get it, okay? But also, I let them talk, and then I say, you've always been creative. You just allowed the world to quiet that part of your brain, because I've never met a child who did not enjoy playing dress up, who did not enjoy books, who didn't enjoy coloring, drawing, imagining. It's always there. We are the same person as a child. Really, with the car alarm? I'm sorry. We are the child that we are grows and develops and changes according to our external stimuli, and who we are as a person, that is what allows us to take the external stimuli and translate it into our personalities. So we're born a little seed, a little seed of a little flesh nugget, and all of our interests are already there. But the world has a tendency to mold us if we allow it to. The way that we allow the world to mold us is how we become adults. But that little fleshy seed, that little flesh nugget is still in there. So it's a matter of recapturing that. So don't Don't try to come at me and tell me that's just not true. I'm just not motivated. No, it's that you refuse to do the work and you refuse to acknowledge that you have shut that part off in your brain and in your soul. And that's okay. Maybe, I can understand why it would be shameful to admit it, because then you think, oh, God damn it. I've spent the last 10, 20, 30 years of my life ignoring my passions and I'm embarrassed about it, right? I get it. Trust me, I hear you. So this is why it's important to explore yourself within your passions, okay? Now, do I ever experience a little black rain cloud day or days where I'm just in a mood? Something hurts. I'm flustered with adulting, because the bane of every manic creative is the fact that we have to grow up, right? I hate adulting. I hate it, and I'm not great at it. I'll be the first to tell you I'm not the greatest at adulting. So yeah, I experience all of these pitfalls in my life, yes, of course, but those hindrances themselves are not demotivating to me. On the contrary, it is those days which, in some sick, twisted way, actually end up inspiring me to work harder and to dig myself out of that particular rut, whatever it is, so that I can get back into indulging in what I love. So I can run back to my little Karla bubble that I'm working so hard to create. It helps also, of course, that my interests are varied enough that it keeps things fresh. I told you that I'm interested in fashion and art and home fragrance and graphic design and all of that sort of thing. So I can focus, again, as I was saying earlier, I can focus on art for half the day. I can do a full day or two on fashion, come back to art, and I can fluctuate. I can hop around from all of my different creative lily pads, and it keeps things fresh and exciting. And that, of course, helps me to stay motivated. The beauty of creating a multifaceted universe of my own design is that everything that I do inspires and commingles. So if you find yourself a little manic and you think, oh, I have way too many interests, how am I supposed to focus on one or two or three? You know what resonates with you the most. And I would encourage you to maybe not hyper-focus on one interest, because I think this is where some people get lost, and this is where people end up feeling burnout. Now, we can get into burnout, and I was going to touch on burnout in this video, but I think I'm going to end up saving it for another video, and we'll stick to just motivation in this video. But if you have several interests, I don't know, say you're a photographer and you embroider and you bake, okay? Why don't you bake some things and photograph them, okay? Make your passions work well together. Have a nice little play date. Invite everybody into the sandbox. You embroider and you bake. Again, so you're a baker, embroiderer, and photographer. Why don't you take a photo of one of your baked goods, a cupcake, and then turn that into an embroidery pattern? See? Do you see what I'm saying? So everything can intermingle while still being separate, and yet you will be able to find your own motivation without an external factor. You can be inspired by your cupcake, by your embroidery, by your photography, whatever. Let's say you take a beautiful photo of a sunset. Okay, translate the colors of that sunset into a baked good. Frosting. See? It's just, an idea that I pulled out of my hat, but there you go. It really, it's inexplicable how valuable it is to have an ecosystem that I create myself, or that you, for instance, could create yourself. And I'm loving it. I'm loving living in my ecosystem and seeing it expand, and every little step, along with every little pitfall, is keeping me on that path of being motivated. I have absolutely no sympathy for lazy people. If you are slumped on the couch because you are feeling stagnant and unmotivated, I have a little bit of sympathy for that situation, but I would advise that you turn off the TV, put your phone on silent, or turn it off altogether, whatever it is, and just listen to yourself without any external stimuli. Because I'm telling you guys, external stimuli, at least in my situation, it can actually be a huge hindrance. Sometimes I will go through periods of the day where I won't even want to listen to music because the music distracts me, because I love music, right? And then I start singing along or humming along and dancing along, and then I become distracted. So I've recently discovered, within the previous few months, ambient noise, and that helps. Birds in the jungle or rain in a cemetery, silly atmospheric ambient sounds are a godsend. They've been wonderful for me. But anyway, back to the topic. Turn off your phone, your TV, whatever it is, and figure out what it is that makes you tick, truly tick. Like what does it for you? What gets you going? Just sit in silence if you must. Ruminate for hours, days, but I promise you, you are a passionate individual, regardless of what maybe you've been telling yourself, regardless of what other people maybe have been telling you. Which, side note, if you're surrounded by people who make you feel like shit, well, get rid of those people. But I promise, you are full of passion and vigor, and you have a lot to offer yourself. So stop sitting behind a wall of I'm just not good at anything and I'm unmotivated. Knock that shit off. The more you tell yourself that, the more you'll believe it, the more it'll be true. And then it's an endless cycle. And I have no sympathy for you. Are you a writer? Are you a painter? Okay, write. Paint. Once you tap into whatever it is that lights you up, I'm telling you guys, the motivation to produce, to create, to just freaking exist will never leave you. Laziness is complacency, period. And the thing is, this is what gets me. Laziness can often take up just as much time as being productive. And what do I mean by that? If you are the type, or if you know the type, you've experienced the type on social media, who will spend hours, guys, complaining, bitching, bemoaning their lives on Facebook. I don't Facebook, but some of the biggest offenders are on Facebook and on Instagram to an extent. But anyway, people will write essays about how miserable they are, and yet they will not put half of that energy into improving their life. So they're actually just enjoying wallowing and being unproductive and being just gray lumps. Think about that for a second. It takes effort to sit on the couch and do nothing. You could take that energy and do something, okay? Appreciate your ability to learn, to create, to pursue a passion. And yes, dark days will absolutely happen. They will. But your fire and your motivation, they'll be fabulous. They'll be bubbling just beneath the surface of whatever bullshit you're having to trudge through. Let me let you in on a little secret. You don't need anyone's acceptance or approval to do whatever the hell you want. Circle back to earlier on in this video when I told you that I've never had a creative support system. I've done it all myself. From day one, I've been my biggest cheerleader, my biggest supporter, my biggest motivator. So I don't want to hear that excuse either. Oh, woe is me, nobody around me understands me. Baby, shut up, I've lived it. I'm living it now, essentially, to an extent. So that is not a valid excuse either. Laziness and excuses, man, I don't play that game here. So to end this video, number one, motivation exists within yourself. That is where I find most of mine. My inspiration, that's a different thing, but my motivation comes from within. And number two, the motivation to be you is what should drive you, not anyone else's silly opinion. So when I am feeling unmotivated, I look within again. I don't turn to external forces to motivate me to do anything. I'll use this as an example, my life today. Do you think anyone in their right mind would have thought it was a good idea for me to run off into the desert, draw, sell crazy clothes, and reject convention? That's the life for me, not necessarily for everyone else. And yet here I am doing my thing. Had I listened, had I allowed anyone else to influence my decisions, I wouldn't be here doing this today. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this video at that. I ended up ranting for, this wasn't a rant, right? This was just a little conversation, but truly, this was supposed to be a quickie little 15-minute tough lovey sort of pep talk, the Karla pep talks. It ended up being longer. So, c'est la vie. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that maybe you can cull something valuable from this conversation. So that's it. Take it from the desert's resident spooky vampire artsy chick. Do what you want. You have the power within yourself to motivate yourself to do whatever you want. Does it sound corny? Yes. But is it the truth? Also, yes. All right. Get out of here. Go do something fun with yourself. Be bad, be good. I don't give a damn which. Just come back in one piece. I will see you in the next one. As always, everything you need to know will be down below. Links to my store, my social media, just, all of that good stuff. All right, goodbye, my nasties. I will see you in the next one.